Most people spend their entire lives trying to arrange the world around them into something they can finally be at peace with. The right circumstances, the right version of events, and the world, reliably, refuses. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a man who commanded the most powerful empire on earth chose to spend his private hours not issuing orders, but correcting himself. His name was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome. And yet, the journal he kept was never written for power or for legacy. It was written so that he, a man carrying the weight of an entire civilization, could remain sane, balanced, human. What he left behind is not a philosophy for display. It is something rarer. Instructions for remaining inwardly free in a world that never stops trying to unsettle you. We have never in human history had more tools to be seen, and we have never, perhaps, been more quietly desperate about it. Every opinion tested for social temperature before it is spoken. Every achievement documented before it is felt. An entire generation of adults who have learned to experience their own lives as content, performing their days rather than living them. The anxiety that comes with this is not small. It sits underneath everything. The meeting, the message left unread, the post that didn't land the way you hoped. And most of us carry it so constantly that we've stopped noticing it's even there. Think about the last time you sent something out into the world, a message, an idea, a piece of work you cared about, and then spent the next hour checking whether anyone had responded. Not because the response would change anything real, but because the silence felt like a verdict. Or the moment a conversation ends and you spend the drive home replaying what you said, what you should have said, how you must have come across. The other person has probably forgotten the exchange entirely. But inside your head, it's still running. This is the quiet tax we pay. Not in one dramatic moment, but in the accumulated weight of 1,000 small performances every single day. Marcus Aurelius was ruler of the known world, and he wrote, "The whole earth is a mere point in space." He was not being dramatic. Think about how much of your daily anxiety lives in reputation, in being misunderstood, overlooked, forgotten, in what someone thinks of you right now, in this moment. Marcus simply asks, remembered by whom? Tiny creatures on a tiny patch of rock for a tiny measure of time, who are themselves distracted, mortal, and mostly preoccupied with their own reflection. If your peace depends on applause, you have handed your freedom to the audience. And audiences are never satisfied. And once you see that clearly, really see it, something shifts. You stop looking outward for what can only be found by turning toward the people beside you. Rational creatures are born for each other's sake. Marcus didn't write that as a sentiment. He wrote it as a reminder to himself. For the moments, it felt easier to close off than to stay open. Because here is what prolonged anxiety and disappointment do. They make us contract. We stop extending ourselves. We start to move through our relationships at a careful distance, measuring what we give, protecting what we might lose. We become smaller versions of ourselves and call it wisdom. Marcus pushes back. He reminds himself and us that isolation from each other is not safety. It is its own kind of damage. We are, by nature, made for one another, and the work of being human is to keep returning to that, even when it costs something. And it will cost something, because the people we open ourselves to are also the people who can hurt us most. When the wound is not accidental, but chosen. When someone you trusted decided, quite deliberately, that you didn't matter enough. That is the real test, not of philosophy, but of character. And that is exactly where Marcus goes next. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Not forgiveness as softness, as precision. Think about what actually happens when someone wrongs you and you respond in kind. You lie to the person who lied to you. You shut out the person who shut you out. You become ruthless toward the person who was ruthless toward you. It feels like justice. It even feels good for a while. But look at what has quietly happened. You have borrowed their behavior. You have let their worst qualities set the terms for yours. They didn't just hurt you. They edited you. And you handed them the pen. That is what Marcus is pointing at. When someone deceives you and you become deceitful in return, they have not just affected your circumstances. They have changed who you are. External harm touches what happens to you. Vice touches the soul. The greatest act of self-preservation has never been to win the argument, or expose the wrong, or be proven right. It has been to remain yourself, remain just among the unjust, remain calm among the furious, remain decent among the indecent. Not passivity, mastery. Because walking away unchanged from something that tried to change you, that is not weakness. That is the hardest kind of strength there is. Anyone can harden. Anyone can close off, retaliate, become a smaller version of themselves. What takes real discipline is remaining open, remaining fair, remaining yourself. When every instinct is pulling you in the opposite direction. That is what Marcus means by mastery. Not control over what happens. Control over who you remain while it happens. Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD on a military campaign he didn't choose, in a world he could not control. But his final entries and meditations are not the words of a broken man. They are the words of someone who had built, slowly, imperfectly, repeatedly, a mind that could not easily be thrown into disorder. He didn't write a conclusion. He wrote a reminder to himself about what to do when the day arrives with its full weight and nowhere obvious to set it down. Make the best move you can. Not heroism, not certainty, not perfection. Just the best move you can, with what you have, where you are, 2,000 years later. That is still relevant.